Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Those are attending in online. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Right. All right. Good morning, guys. And check it what we completed there in the last session. What exactly the topic we understood there. So in the last session, we have some discussion on the differences between Java and other programming languages we are understanding. In the differences between Java and other programming languages, already we completed two differences. That one difference we completed there, and we are about to complete the second difference. So what was the first one we completed there? What was the first one here? We understood clearly. C and C++ are static programming languages, but Java is a dynamic programming language. C and C++ are static programming languages, but Java is what? A dynamic programming language. So in this point, we understood clearly C and C++ are static programming languages, but Java is a dynamic programming language. Why? Because in C and C++, memory allocation is going on at the compilation time, not at runtime for the primitive data. So C and C++ are static programming languages. But in the case of Java, memory allocation is going on at a runtime, not at compilation time. So because of this reason, Java is a dynamic programming language. See, the point is when the memory allocation is going on the basis of that only, we can conclude whether the programming language is a static programming language or a dynamic programming language. If the memory allocation is going on at compilation time, then that programming language is a static programming language. If the memory allocation is going on at runtime, then that programming language is dynamic programming language. These are the 2 points here we understood clearly. Next one is after that the second difference we started then. What was the second difference we started already? Preprocessor is required in C and C++, but a preprocessor is not required in Java. Where given what exactly the location of the preprocessor, I have discussed that. What is the location of the preprocessor that we already understood there? I given a diagram. In the compilation, the very first phase is what? Pre-processing phase, where preprocessor will come into the picture. When we compile a C program, we'll get a .exe files. When we execute that, there we are able to get some results. But in the compilation again, 4 phases are available, already. In a compilation, what are the 4 phases which are existed actually? First one is preprocessor, and second one is compiler, third one is assembler, next one is loader link editor. There the 4 phases are existed. Next, after that, where by this we understood clearly what is the location of the preprocessor. After that, we understood what the preprocessor is able to do, what exactly the work that preprocessor can do. If we come with particular point, no answer is very clear. In C and C++, the total predefined library was provided in the form of header files. Tell me what are the various header files that existed then? stdio.h, conio.h, math.h. Okay, fine. If you want to use these header files in C and C++ applications, we have to include these header files into C and C++ applications. To include these header files into C and C++ applications, there we have to use #include statements. That is #include stdio.h, hash include conio.h, hash include math.h. These many things here we have to use. Okay, fine. For example, I prepared a C application. I prepared a C program. Inside the C program, I have written hash include statements. Then I compile the C program. When I compile the C program, what the preprocessor will do now? Preprocessor will recognize all the hash include statements. Preprocessor will take all the specified header files names like yesterday.h or conio.h or math.h like this. When these header files names are taken, then immediately preprocessor will search for these header files content, these header files in a C software. If these header files are not existed, these header files are not existed in a C software, then preprocessor will give some error message. If these header files are existed inside the C software, then immediately preprocessor will load all the header files content to the memory. Preprocessor will load all the header files content to the memory. Observe carefully here what I am telling to you now. Preprocessor will load all the header files content to the memory. Observe carefully. Then after that, after completion of this, then what next one here we have to do there after completion of this? In Java, preprocessor is existed or not existed, that we have to understand. In Java, whether preprocessor is existed or not existed, that we have to understand. Alright, sir. In Java, preprocessor is not existed. And before that, we have to conclude in C and C++ preprocessor is required. By seeing the total internal flow of this preprocessing, what exactly the purpose of this preprocessor, that means what is the need of this preprocessor inside this C and C++? No, answer is very clear. In C and C++, preprocessor is required in order to recognize hash include statements and in order to load the specified header files content to the memory. For the sake of this, we need preprocessor. Okay, in Java, preprocessor is not required. Why preprocessor is not required in the case of Java, that we are going to understand clearly. In Java, the total predefined library is provided in the form of classes and interfaces inside the packages. Classes and interfaces inside the packages only, the total predefined library is provided. Okay, what are the various examples for this predefined library? Java.io, Java.util, Java.sql, and so on. Okay, fine. If we want to use this predefined library in a Java program, we have to import these packages to the Java program. To import these packages to the Java program, there we have to use import statement. Import java.io.star, import java.util.star, and import java.sql.star. All right. When I prepare a Java program, inside the Java program, I included all the import statements. And if I compile this Java program, where compiler will recognize all the import statements, compiler will identify all the package names which we specified along with import statements. Compiler will search for these packages inside the Java software, whether these packages are existed or not existed. If these packages are not existed, inside the Java predefined library, then immediately compiler will raise an error message, package xxx, that means package java.io or java.util or java. Something else does not exist. Package xxx does not exist. This error here we are able to get. For example, if the specified package is existed inside the Java software, if the specified package is existed inside the Java software, where compiler will not raise any error. At the same time, compiler will not load any package content to the memory. You know already one statement. In Java, compiler is not responsible for loading packages to the memory. Compiler is responsible for checking whether these packages are existed or not existed inside the Java software. That's it. Packages are not responsible for loading any class or interface to the memory. Compiler is not responsible for predefined loading, that means predefined library loading to the memory. Compiler is responsible to check whether the specified packages are existed or not existed. Okay, fine. If the predefined library is not existed, then compiler will raise an error. If the predefined packages are existed, then compiler will not raise any error. At the same time, compiler will not load any library to the memory. That we understood. Okay, if compiler is not loading, if compiler is not loading any library to the memory, then who will load that predefined library to the memory in Java? Who is taking responsibility of loading predefined library to the memory? If we come for this point, answer is very clear. Who is loading that predefined library to the memory? In the sense, JVM, Java Virtual Machine, is an engine for executing Java programs. That JVM will load the required libraries to the memory. JVM will load the required libraries to the memory. At the time of executing Java program, which classes and interfaces from which packages is required, up to that classes and interfaces are going to be loaded to the respective memory. So loading predefined library at runtime by JVM is called as dynamic loading. That is called as what? Dynamic loading. Now coming to the conclusion, in Java, preprocessor is not required. Why preprocessor is not required in Java? In Java, hash include statements are not existed. Why hash include statements are not existed in Java? Why? Because in Java, predefined library is not existed in the form of header files. Why predefined library is not existed in the form of header files? Where the predefined library is existed in Java? If you think, in Java, the total predefined libraries existed in the form of classes and interfaces in packages. Because of this reason, preprocessor is not at all required. In the case of Java, preprocessor is required. In the case of what? C and C++. Guys, I think up to this point here I given clarity. Am I right? Up to these points we understood there. Am I right or not? So let us have some small note on these points. Whatever the points I explained there, at least for our reference purpose, I need to give the small note. Now try to take these points here. If you are not having awareness on it, now try to take these points now. All right, sir. Then what's the content here I'm telling there? Anyway, then better to take some dictation part also regarding these points now. Somewhat internals I discussed here. So we have to understand these internals also clearly. Right, guys. Now, preprocessor is required in C and C++, but preprocessor is not required in Java. That's the point here I given there. Now here, what is the first one here I've given there? Preprocessor is a tool. Preprocessor is a tool. It will be existed in a compilation process. It will be existed in compilation. It will be existed in a compilation process. That's okay, fine. All right, sir. Now, what is the job of this preprocessor? For that, I'm giving clarity. Now, try to understand it now. What's the point here I'm telling to you? In C and C++, in C and C++, the complete predefined library, is existed in the form of header files. Exists in the form of like what? No, header files. Examples we are given. Next one after that. Try to take this. If you already taken that, then I'll move to the next topic. Guys, is it required? If it is required, then you can take it. Otherwise, then I'll move to the next point. At least now try to read the content here. What I'm telling you now. All right, sir. If a preprocessor is a tool, it will be exist in compilation. In a C and C++, the complete predefined library is exist in the form of header files. Example is yesterdayabo.h, conio.h, and math.h. Next point is what? Then after that, if we want to include the above predefined library, if we want to include the above predefined library in C and C++ applications, then we have to use include hash include statements. There we have to use what there? Hash include statements. There we have to use hash include statements. The example here we have to understand. What would be the example here I'm telling to you clearly? Hash include stdio.h, hash include conio.h, and hash include math.h. Little bit, sir. Just I need to give some basic view. Then after that I'll move forward. If we want to include the above predefined library in C and C++ applications, then we have to use hash include statements. Example, hash include stdio.h, hash include conyo.h, and hash include math.h. Okay. Then after that, what next one here? The work of the preprocessor, I'll give some point here. If we compile C and C++ applications, if we compile C and C++ applications, then compiler will perform the following actions. Not compiler, preprocessor will perform the following actions. Preprocessor will perform the following actions. Alright, sir. I'll give a list of actions. Try to understand it now. Alright, so now point number 1. What preprocessor will do actually? Preprocessor will recognize all the hash include statements and hash include statements, all the hash include statements and okay, hash include statements. Number 2, preprocessor will search for the specified header files, or preprocessor will take all the specified package names, all the specified header files names and search for them in a C predefined library Okay. Then what would be the third point here? I'm telling there clearly. Preprocessor will take all the specified header files names and search for them in a C predefined library. If the specified header files are not existed in C and C++ libraries, then preprocessor will raise an error. Okay. If the specified header files are not existed, then preprocessor, if the specified header files are not exist in C and C++ libraries, then preprocessor will raise an error. Then what will the fourth point here I'm telling now? If the specified header files are existed, if the specified header files are existed in a C predefined library, then preprocessor will load them in memory at compilation. Then preprocessor will load them in memory at compilation. Guys, try to write the content here. Why? Because initially you are not having the document with you, so that definitely later on I will share these documents also, but later on I'll provide material also for you. Already materials are existed there, but in the startup classes, at least if you write something, you'll understand it clearly. Okay, few more points only, then after that I'll go for continuation part. All right, sir. Then what next one here? After completion of this, the fifth point is like what there? Not fifth point here. Note kind of point is what? Loading predefined library at a compilation time is called as static loading. Is called as what? Static loading. This I need conclusion in the future. What exactly the meaning of static loading? Loading predefined library to the memory at compilation time is called a static loading. Now the conclusion, in C and C++, in C and C++, preprocessor is not required. In C and C++, preprocessor is not required. Sorry, in C and C++, preprocessor is required. Preprocessor is required to recognize all hash include statements, and to recognize all hash include statements, in order to load, predefined in order to load header files. That's enough. Now this is the conclusion here we have to follow. In C and C++, preprocessor is required to recognize all hash include statements in order to load header files. Okay, guys. Then while writing the content, try to read the statement and write the information here. Don't worry. The maximum in the next onwards, I'll give this. I'll go for that more content on explanation part here, but at the same time, little bit information I'll provide. But anyway, all this content is available in our material. In the startup classes might be, I want to give this kind of dictation part. Once all of you are getting materials there, then it's okay. Then later I will go for explanation completely. But anyway, then one time if you write the content, you'll understand clearly what's going to be happen here. Guys, all of you understand this now? All of you are taking this now? Can I go for next one? All right, sir. The next one is why preprocessor is not required in Java. What's the point here? Are given there? No, the points are given there clearly. In Java, the complete predefined library, was provided. In Java, the complete predefined library was provided in the form of classes and interfaces in packages, in the form of classes and interfaces in packages. Example I have given there: java.io, java.util, java.sql. Next one is, after that, if you want to use these packages, in Java applications, then we have to import, then we have to use import statement. Example here we have given there: import java.io.star, import java.io.star, import java.util.star, import java.sql.star. Okay. Then what was the next point, guys? Observe carefully. What is the next point here are given there after completion of this? If we compile Java application, then compiler will perform the following actions. What compiler will do? If we compile Java applications, then compiler will perform the following actions. What are the various actions which are performed by compiler? Observe carefully. Point number 1, compiler will recognize all the import statements, and compiler will take all the specified package names. Compiler will recognize all the import statements and compiler will take all the specified package names. Then after that, compiler will search The package names will search the packages in a Java library. In a Java library, if they are not existed, then compiler will raise an error. Compiler will search the packages in Java library. If they are not existed, then compiler will raise an error. Okay. Next one. If they're existed, then compiler will not raise any error. Compiler will not raise any error, and compiler will not load any package to the memory. That's okay. Just two more points, guys. Then after that, I'll complete this. Then I'll move forward. Compiler will search the packages in Java library. If they are not existed, then compiler will raise an error. If they are existed, then compiler will not raise any error, and compiler will not load any package to the memory. That means compiler is not responsible for loading predefined library. Then what is the conclusion here now after completion of this? In Java, note kind of point I'm telling there. Compiler responsibilities here we understood there. In Java, JVM will load the required predefined library to the memory at a runtime. It is called as dynamic loading. It is called as what? Dynamic loading. In Java, JVM will load the required predefined library. In Java, JVM will load the required predefined library to the memory at runtime. It is called as what? Dynamic loading. Right, guys. I'll complete it. Don't worry. Just within two statements, we'll finish this point here. The conclusion I'm telling there. In Java, preprocessor is not required. In Java, preprocessor is not required. Why? Because in Java, hash include statements are not existed. Hash include statements and header files are not existed. Hash include statements and header files are not existed. That's it. Up to this point here, we understood, guys. After this, here we understood in the last session. Am I right or not? If we complete it, then I will go for one important interview question to all of you. You have to understand it. If we complete this, up to this part, if we complete, then I will go for one important interview question. Okay. All of you ready? Content is very simple. Just I have given how packages are going on in Java, then how which files their header files are going on. That means how header files are exist inside the C, C++, how import statement is existed in Java, and how what their hash include statements are exist in Java. Up to now, we understood this clearly. Now my interview question is, what was that interview question here in this case now? What is this interview question now? What are the differences between hash include statement? What are the differences between hash include statement and import statement? What are the differences between hash include statement and import statement? This is a question, guys. Definitely at a fresher level, you can expect this question clearly. At a fresher level, you can expect this question. Everybody has to answer for this. Simple answers only. Answers would be very, very simple. There we have to give answers for my question. As you know, now tell me. Alright, sir. Again, I'm telling to you this total content today. This total content, whatever the content I typed here, exists inside the material also. Don't worry, it's not mandatory to take this data, no. It's also be existed here. Understand it clearly. All right, the very first one is, in which language the hash include statements are existed? In which language import statements are existed? Tell me guys, where hash include statements and import statements are existed? Now tell me. Hash include statements are existed where? C and C++, but import statements are existed in Java. All right, let us write that first point here. Hash include statements are existed in C and C++, whereas import statements are existed in Java. That's very first point. Hash include statements are existed in C and C++. Import statements are existed in Java. That's very first one. Tell me what a hash include statements will do and what a hash include statements will do and what import statements will do. That point here we have to understand. Hash include statements responsibility and import statements responsibility. Here we have to understand. Guys, observe carefully what a hash include statements responsibility actually. Hash include statements are able to include the predefined library which is existed in the form of header files. But import statements are able to include the predefined library which are existed in the form of like what now? Classes and interfaces in packages now. Right, sir. Hash include statements are able to include the predefined library existed in the form of header files. Hash include statements are able to include the predefined library which are existed in the form of what? Header files. In the form of what? Header files. Next one is after completion of this, then what next one here? Import statements are able to include the predefined library. Import statements are able to include the predefined library existed in the form of classes and interfaces in packages. Well, that's okay, fine. Now I'm asking one question to you, another question I'm asking to you, try to answer for it. Tell me who will evaluate hash include statements and who will evaluate this import statements now? Who will execute hash include statements and who will execute this import statements now? In C and C++, hash include statements are evaluated by preprocessor or not? In C and C++, hash include statements are evaluated by preprocessor or not? But in the case of Java, import statements are evaluated by both the compiler and JVM. Compiler is to check whether the packages are exist or not. But JVM will identify the package names to load the respective classes and interfaces. So here the point is what? What is the point here I'm telling there? Now hash include statements are evaluated by preprocessor. But in the case of Java, import statements are evaluated by both compiler and JVM. That's fine. Both compiler and JVM. Next one, guys, after that. Now we know already two types of loadings are available. What are the two types of loadings now? Static loading and a dynamic loading. Which one is supporting static loading here? Hash include statement or import statement? Which one is supporting static loading? Hash include statement. Which one is supporting dynamic loading? Import statement. Already I explained to you. In the case of hash include statement, preprocessor will load the library to the memory at a compilation time. At a compilation time, preprocessor will load the required library to the memory. So what's the meaning of it now? At a compilation time only, that library will be loaded. So what's the meaning of it now? Meaning is hash include statement Hash include statements are supporting static loading. Of course, in C and C++, that loading part is what there? Static loading only. Next one is import statements. Import statements are supporting what? Import statements are supporting dynamic loading. Import statements are supporting what? Dynamic loading. Import statements are supporting dynamic loading. Okay, this is the fourth point. One more point, guys. If all of you complete it, then I will give one more point. It's also be very, very important for us. I'll ask one question to you. Now try to answer for it. Okay. Try to understand it, no? Is it possible to load or is it possible to specify more than one header file name by using single hash include statement? Is it possible to load more than one header file by using single hash include statement? Almost all what I'm asking to you. Is it possible hash include stdio.h, comma, conio.h, comma, math.h? Is it possible like this? Is it possible to specify more than one header file name with a single hash include statement? Possible or not possible? Not possible. Okay, not possible. Then what is possible here? No. What is possible in the sense this is possible. That means for every header file, we have to provide a separate hash include statement. For every header file, we have to specify, we have to use a separate hash include statement. Am I right or not? Now observe carefully. So here the point is what? Here the point is what? If you want to load, more than one header file, then we have to use more than one hash include statement. More than one hash include statement. Observe carefully. If you want to load more than one header file into the memory in C and C++, there we have to use more than one hash include statement. This is an example for it. But now my question is it possible in the case of Java? Is it possible in the case of Java? That means what I'm asking there, in the case of Java, what I'm expecting now, for example, if I provide import java.io.star, here what is the meaning of the star, guys? Now tell me. All from the specified package. All from the specified package. All in the sense like what they know in a java.io package, hundreds of classes are available. Hundreds and hundreds of classes are available in java.io package. More and more number of classes are existed. I want to use all of them in my present Java file. If you want to use all of them in our present Java file, there we have to import all classes and interfaces from the specified package. So we have to use import java.io.star. A star is representing all from the specified package. A star is representing all from the specified package. So here the point is what? In the case of Java, in Java, if you want to load, in the case of Java, if you want to load or if you want to use more than one class, or if you want to use more than one class or interface of the same package, I'm telling there is the condition is what? Of the same package. If you want to use more than one class or more than one interface, more than one class or interface of the same package in the present Java file, then it is sufficient to use single import statement. Then it is sufficient to use single import statement. But here the question is, here the point is, if more than one class or interface of the same package, in the case more than one class from more than one package, no, different classes from different packages, no, there we have to write multiple import statements. If the condition is what? More than one class or interface from the same package, more than one class or interface from the same package, there it is sufficient to use single import statement with the star notation. Import java.io.star. For example, more than one class from more than one package. Classes we are using which are from different packages. There definitely we have to use like what they know, multiple import statements. But up to this is sufficient, clearly we can understand now. Right guys, all of you completed this part here up to now. If we complete it, then I'll go for the third point here. All of you ready? Right, now let us understand what exactly the differences here we understood there. In differences between a hash include statement and import statement, definitely you can expect this question from the freshest point of view, but everybody has to remember this. As we are going to discuss Java completely in the future, there we have to understand this point. Now tell me what exactly the differences between hash include statement and import statement. What is the first difference here? Hash include statement is existed in which language? No, C and C++, whereas import statements are existed in which language there? Java. That's okay, fine. Next one is hash include statement is able to include the predefined library which are existed in the form of header files. Import statements are able to include the predefined library which are existed in the form of classes and interfaces in packages. Then what's the third one here? Hash include statements are evaluated by preprocessor, but import statements are evaluated by both the compiler and the JVM. Hash include statements are supporting static loading. Import statements are supporting dynamic loading. Hash include statements, if you want to load more than one header file, there we have to use multiple hash include statements. Not possible with a single hash include statement. But if you want to use more than one class or interface of the same package, there it is sufficient to use one single import statement, not required to go for multiple import statements. But if the classes and interfaces are coming from multiple packages, no, different packages, no, there we have to write multiple import statements, different import statements, there we have to write clearly. So these are the various differences we understood between hash include statement and import statement. That's okay guys. Then overall two differences we completed. In the difference between Java and others, only two differences we completed. Can you tell me what two differences we completed here? First one is what now? C and C++ are what? Come on. C and C++ are what? Static programming languages. But Java is what? Dynamic programming language. Second difference is what? Preprocessor is required in C and C++, but preprocessor is not required in Java. That's okay. Now this is up to now like two differences here. Now the third difference, one more important difference is C and C++ are platform dependent programming languages, but Java is a platform independent programming language. C and C++ are platform dependent programming languages, but Java is a platform independent programming language. C and C++ are platform dependent programming languages, but Java is a platform independent programming language. Right? So this is one of the important topic inside our differences between Java and others. And at least you are going to understand how Java is different from C and C++ in this particular area also. And moreover, in this overall discussion of this third point, I will introduce JVM effectively. We'll introduce JVM. What is the intention of the JVM in Java applications? What is the requirement of the JVM? That all the points we'll understand inside this particular one. Now let's understand this clearly. All of you ready? Now, before understanding C, C++ and Java are platform dependent or platform independent, before understanding these points now, first we have to understand when a programming language is a platform dependent programming language and when a programming language is platform independent programming language. What are the definitions for it? First we have to understand that. Once if we understand these definitions, then we will think how C and C++ are platform dependent, and how Java is a platform independent. First, let us understand when a programming language is platform dependent programming language and when a programming language is platform independent programming language. All of you observe carefully. If any programming language allows its applications to perform compilation and execution on the same operating system. If any programming language allows its applications to perform both compilation and execution on the same operating system, not on two different operating systems, then that programming language is called as platform dependent programming language. Tell me guys, what's the definition I given for the platform dependent programming language? If any programming language allows its applications to perform both the compilation and execution on the same operating system, not on multiple operating systems, then that programming language is called as platform dependent programming language. Examples for platform dependent programming languages are C and C++. Examples for platform dependent programming languages are what? C and C++. All right, sir. Here my question is, how C and C++ are platform dependent programming languages? How can you say C and C++ are platform dependent programming languages? I'll give some reason to you. Now try to understand these points. All of you observe carefully. First of all, let me prepare a diagram as per the definition. This is my C program. Whenever we are saying it's a C program, there we have to provide like what there? .c extension. Okay. Then I need to perform compilation. I need to perform what? Compilation. This is like what there? Compilation. When we perform this compilation, what next one here we are able to get there? Whenever we perform compilation, there we are able to get one file. Which type of file here we are able to get? No, of course .obj or something else. No, but finally what we required here? No, .exe files we required. Whenever we are getting .exe file, there we have to execute the program. So I need to go for like what their execution process. Who will execute our C program there? There is a mission, there is a separate engine to execute our C program. All right, sir. That mission is nothing but what there? C engine. This is execution process. Now here, what is existed here? No, C engine is existed to execute our program. Again, finally, here we are able to get some outputs. Here we are able to get like what there? Some outputs. We'll get some results after execution of the C program. You'll get some results. All of you observe carefully what I given there. Initially, I've taken C program that I compiled. When I compile the C program, next we will get .exe file. Whenever we are getting .exe file, then if we give the .exe file to the execution process, then program will be executed. There we are able to get some output. This is normal content. Now, for compilation, we require operating system. Compilation is a process that could be initiated by operating system through the commands. Execution is also be required. For execution also we require operating system. As per the definition, for example, for a compilation process, if I use Windows operating system, then for execution purpose also, we must use what the same Windows operating system. For execution purpose also, we have to use what their same Windows operating system. This is as per the definition. But for example, for our discussion point of view, for our discussion, I want to use Linux operating system. For our discussion point of view, I want to use what? Linux operating system. That's my point. Okay. What's going to be happen? Put more concentration. Here only the key points here. When we compile C program on Windows operating system, here we are getting .exe file or not? Here we are getting .exe file or not? The .exe file contains mission code. .exe file contains directly executable code. Observe carefully. .exe file contains directly executable code. Directly executable code and it is following and it is having Windows representations. And it is having which representations there? No, Windows representations. Please guys, everybody understand this statement here, no? First of all, tell me where we compiled our C program. Where we compiled our C program. Everybody answer for my question. And which operating system we compiled our C program? On Windows operating system. When we compile our C program on Windows operating system, automatically .exe file is generated. Automatically, which file is generated there? No, .exe file is generated. What is the nature of the .exe file? It able to have directly executable code, and at the same time, it is dependent on the operating system where we compile the C program. That means it has the executable code as per the Windows representations. The .exe file contains the executable code as per the Windows representations. Understand my point here? From one operating system to another operating system, data representations are varied. The conventions are varied. The code representations also be varied from one operating system to another operating system. So here what I'm telling there, we compile our C program in Windows operating system. So .exe file is generated. It has only Windows representations. Okay, now understand this clearly. If you want to execute this Windows represented executable code, then at runtime, we need the same Windows operating system or not. If we want to execute the same Windows represented executable code, the same Windows operating system we require at runtime or not. Otherwise, C engine will not understand your Windows representations. C engine will understand only the local operating system representations. Say for example, understand this clearly. Here now tell me, execution is going on which operating system here? Execution is going on which operating system? No, Linux operating system. Execution is going on which operating system there? Linux operating system. Observe carefully. Now here the point is what I'm telling to you. It able to execute, it able to understand executable mission, it able to understand what it able to understand only, it able to understand only, it able to understand only Linux representations. It able to execute only Linux representations, not any other representations. It able to execute only Linux representations. Understand guys? Why? Because the C engine is installed on the top of the Linux operating system. When a C engine is existed on the top of the Linux operating system, it can execute only Linux executable code. But now check it now. We compiled our C program on Windows operating system. Here we are getting .exe file as per which representations? No, Windows representations. If you want to run this .exe file at runtime, we must have what there? Windows operating system we need. But unfortunately, execution I'm trying to provide on which operating system? No, Linux operating system. If the C engine is available on Linux operating system, then C engine is able to understand only which representations? No, Linux representations only. It is not understanding any other representations. So now here some incompatibility is coming or not? Here we are getting .exe file with Windows representations, but here C engine requires the .exe file with Linux representations. Here we provided .exe file with Windows representations, but executable mission, a C engine must require that .exe file as per which representations? No, Linux representations. Then only program will be executed. Now here we are getting some incompatibility over .exe file or not? Incompatibility we are getting. Whenever we are getting this incompatibility, where our program will not be executed. our program will not be executed. So for example, you are the person here. You are studying Java. Simple example I'm telling there. For example, I provided some script in Tamil language, not in English. Will you understand that? Will you read the Tamil statements as you are not aware about Tamil? Same scenario is going on. C engine aware about what? Linux representations. But .exe file is provided with which representations? No, Windows representations. Where C engine can understand only Linux, it cannot understand what? No, Windows. So because of that reason, our program will not be executed. But in this scenario, if you want to run our program, if you want to execute our program, then what we have to do there? There we have to go for like what? No, in place of this Linux, we have to use what? What we have to use there? No, Windows. The same Windows operating system here we have to use. In place of Linux, we have to use like what there? Same Windows operating system here we have to use. Now observe carefully. If you provide Windows operating system in place of Linux, no, here now C engine can understand which representations there. C engine can understand like which representations now? Windows representations. Okay, now observe carefully. Here we compile our C program on Windows operating system. Here we are getting .exe file as per Windows representations. Nice. Now here C engine is available on which operating system now? Windows. So it can understand which representations now? Windows representations only. Right. Now that available .exe file is what? Windows represented .exe file. Now C engine is also required which representations? No, Windows representations. Now compatibility is available or not? Compatibility is coming or not? Due to this compatibility, we can conclude that C programming language must have same operating system for both compilation and as well as for what their execution. Why? Because of this reason, because of this particular reason, we can conclude C and C++ are what? Platform dependent programming languages. Because of this reason, C and C++ are what? Platform dependent programming languages. Guys, all of you are following or not? Okay, good. Now this point is okay, clear. Now I'm asking next point. What is my next point? No, C and C++ are platform dependent as we required. Same operating system for both compilation and execution. That's okay. That we understood now. But my question is, how Java is a platform independent programming language? How Java is a platform independent programming language? That we have to understand now. Right, guys? I'll give some explanation now. That is very, very important. Everybody has to follow that explanation. Right, observe carefully, all of you guys. How Java is a platform independent programming language. I'll give time to take these diagrams also, don't worry for it. First of all, let me understand the content. First of all, tell me when a programming language is platform independent programming language. When it is possible to say our programming language is a platform independent programming language. When a programming language allows its applications to perform compilation is on one operating system and execution is in another operating system. If any programming language allows its applications to perform compilation is on one operating system and execution is on another operating system, then that programming language is what? Is a platform independent programming language. Don't write anything here. Let me explain that. Try to put concentration. Now tell me guys, what is platform dependent programming language? For both the compilation and execution, same operating system if we use, then that programming language is what? Platform dependent programming language. Then what is platform independent programming language? No, for compilation one operating system and for execution another operating system if we use, then that programming language is what? Platform independent programming language. If the programming language allows to perform compilation is on one operating system and execution is on another operating system, then that programming language is what? Platform independent programming language. Example for platform independent programming language is what? Example for platform independent programming language is what? Java. Java is an example for platform independent programming language. But how Java is a platform independent programming language? How Java is a platform independent programming language, that we have to understand clearly. All right, guys. The next 10 to 15 minutes of time, the topic is very, very important. Try to put more concentration. Don't take any running notes. Just understand my explanation. That's enough. Right. Now let's come for the content here. First of all, I want to give a diagram as per the definition. For example, here I want to take like what there dot Java file. If the file is what no dot Java. Whenever I'm saying dot Java, automatically you can understand this program is a Java program, Java application. Okay. Then when I prepare this Java program, there I have to perform compilation. There I have to perform what? Compilation. This is compilation. When we perform compilation, in the case of C and C++, which files here we are able to get their .exe file. But in the case of Java, no confusion, only one type of file here we are able to get. After compilation of our Java file, that file is like what? No, dot class file. It is not .exe file. This is what? No, dot class file. Now we have a question. Here we are getting one interview question also in this case. What are the differences between .exe file and .class file? What are the differences between .exe file and .class file? Right, sir. Understand this clearly. So here, what we are getting there, .class file here we are getting. Whenever we are getting .class file, there we have to execute our program. Later on, I'll give the information to you how to execute our program also. All right, sir. Now observe this clearly. We need to execute this program, no? If we want to execute this program, how many times I want to execute this program there? No, multiple times I want to execute the program. What are the multiple times here we are going to execute the program here? Observe carefully. Right, sir. Now this is one time we want to execute it. Then after that, here we are going to get some output. Now this will be like what there execution. And here we are able to get like what there output here we are getting. Okay. Here I'll provide this is for what there execution, one time execution. Now for execution of the program we required, for compilation we required one operating system. For execution also here we need what there one operating system. Right, sir. Guys, now tell me, all of you know, give some point to me. Just observe the diagram here. In this diagram, how many times I compiled my Java program? How many times I compiled my Java program? Only one time or more than one time? Only one time. Only one time. But how many times we executed our Java program? Multiple times or only one time? Multiple times. Observe carefully. I'm trying to provide operating systems also. For compilation, I'm trying to use like what there Windows. For compilation, I'm trying to use Windows. But for execution, I want to use Linux. And there I want to use like what there Unix. And there I want to use like what there Mac. Then after that, the same Windows I want to use again. For execution purpose also, I'm going to use the same Windows operating system. Now at least now tell me here, as per the definition I'm giving, no, we perform compilation is on what their Windows operating system. How many times we are compiling? No, only one time we compiled the program. But how many times we are trying to execute the program? No, 4 times we are trying to execute the program. At one time we are trying to execute the program in Linux. At other time, we are trying to execute the program in Unix. At other time, we are trying to execute the program in Mac. At other time, we are trying to execute the program in no same Windows. Up to the last case, no, for compilation and for execution, I've used the same Windows operating system. Even though we use the same Windows operating system, but still it is what there platform independent programming language only, just by comparing other cases. No. But if it is mandatory to perform compilation and execution both on the single machine, both on the same operating system, then that is platform dependent programming language. But optionally, we can use the same operating system for execution in the case of Java. Okay, so even though we are using same operating system, but we cannot say this is platform dependent programming language. This is one case. Like this, so many cases are available where Linux is available, Unix is existed, Solaris is available, and like MacBook is available. In everywhere we are trying to execute the program, not only Windows or including Windows. Okay, fine. This is as per the definition. Now I'm going to talk some internal concepts. Try to observe these internal concepts, guys. All of you know. Everybody understand these internals, no? First of all, tell me, we compiled our Java program on which operating system? Come on, Windows operating system. We compiled our Java program on Windows operating system. Okay. Inside this, automatically we are able to get dot class file. Am I right or not? Automatically we are able to get what there? Dot class files. What is the nature of the dot class file? Before this, now tell me, what is the nature of the .exe file? .exe file contains directly executable code, and it is dependent on the operating system where we compile the program. It has Windows representations as we compiled our C program in Windows. Similarly, what exactly the Java of the class file, what it able to provide now? Class files contains bytecode. Class files contains what? Bytecode. Understand my point or not? Class files contains what there? Bytecode. Bytecode only. What is the nature of this bytecode? What exactly the meaning of bytecode? It is not directly executable code. That bytecode is not directly executable code. Okay, fine. And at the same time, it is an intermediate code. It is not a source code and it is not a executable code. This is an intermediate between source code and executable code. This is not executable code, not a source code. This is an intermediate code. Okay, what is its nature actually? It's an intermediate code only, that I understood. But what is the nature here now? Nature is very clear. Nature is very clear. It is not having any operating system representations. It doesn't have any operating system representations, including Windows. I'm stressing on these Windows, guys. Why? Because we compiled our Java program on Windows operating system. Even though we compiled our Java program on Windows operating system, still it doesn't include that Windows representations inside the data class file. Okay, all of you observe carefully what I'm telling you. First we compiled our Java program on Windows and we are getting .class file. That .class file I want to execute under Linux operating system, I want to execute under Unix operating system, and I want to execute under Mac, and I want to execute under what? Windows. Observe carefully. Okay, now .class files are generated. Then what is the nature of the .class file, guys? Now tell me, what exactly the nature of the .class file? Now tell me. .class files, the situation is what? .class files contains which code, guys? Now tell me, what is the code which is exists inside the .class file? Now tell me. This is very, very important. Every time we have to understand it. .class files contains which code there? Bytecode. What is the nature of the bytecode? Now tell me. It is not directly executable code. It is an intermediate code. It is not having any operating system representations, and including Windows representation, including Windows operating system. Can I say this .class file is neutral to the operating systems or not? That means it is an independent of the operating systems or not? Whereas .exe file is dependent on the operating systems or not? .exe file is dependent on the operating systems, but a dot class of file is an independent of the operating systems. Okay, good. Up to that, it's okay, good. All of you might be understand that. Now I'm asking one question, guys. Now try to understand it clearly. Assume it. How many times we are executing our program? 4 times we are executing our program. In the first execution, there is an engine, Java engine is available. Am I right or not? This Java engine is available on which operating system? Linux operating system. So if Java engine, which is available on Linux operating system, wants to execute any bytecode, then that bytecode must be in a Linux operating system representations or not? If you want to execute anything on Linux now, that anything must be in the Linux representations or not? This is a key point here. If you want to execute anything in a Unix operating system, that anything must be available as per the Unix representations or not? If you want to execute our program, if you want to execute that bytecode in the Mac operating system, that bytecode must follow that Mac representations or not? Again, if you want to execute that bytecode on Windows operating system, where we require Windows representations in our bytecode or not? Everybody, try to understand what exactly the point I'm trying to say now. So we compiled our Java program, we are getting dot class file. It is independent of the operating system. It is neutral to operating system, that I understand. This is an intermediate code, that's okay. But if you want to execute our program on Linux operating system, if you want to run our program on Linux operating system, our bytecode must have the same Linux representations or not? Our bytecode must have the Unix representations or not? Our bytecode must have Mac representations or not? Similarly, our bytecode must have the same Windows operating system representations or not? Then only our programs will be executed. But what is the scenario here? We compiled our Java program on Windows. We are getting dot class file. It is neutral to every operating system, right? Is it possible to execute this neutral bytecode on Linux operating system? No. Is it possible to execute this neutral bytecode on Linux operating system directly? No. Is it possible to execute this neutral bytecode on Unix operating system? Again, no. Is it possible to execute this neutral bytecode on Mac operating system? No. Not even in the Windows operating system also. Why? Because it is not directly executable code. This is an intermediate code only. Moreover, it doesn't have any operating system representations. So we cannot execute directly. This neutral bytecode on any of the operating systems clearly. But now I want to execute my program. Right, exactly. Now observe carefully. If we want to execute this program, here the point is very much clear. Understand it. Provided dot class file contains a neutral bytecode, but we required local operating system represented code if you want to execute it. So if you want to execute this dot class file in Linux operating system, directly not possible. Why? Because this dot class file contains neutral bytecode, but in the execution process we require Linux representations. Now exactly in this particular situation, how Java was made as a platform independent programming language, and how Sun Microsystems has declared Java as an independent programming language. In this particular situation, if you want to execute a particular bytecode on a particular operating system, in this particular situation, Sun Microsystems has provided a set of converters, translators or converters. Sun Microsystems has provided a set of translators or converters. Here one converter is existed. Here another converter is existed. Here another converter is existed. And here also be another converter is existed. I can say translator instead of this converter, but anyway it's okay, fine. I can use like conversion mechanism. Here also be conversion mechanisms provided. Guys, now observe carefully. What is the job of the first converter? In this diagram, the very first converter is available. What is the job of this first converter? This converter will take a dot class file, provided dot class file, which has a neutral bytecode. Then this converter will convert that neutral bytecode to the Linux operating system representations. This converter will convert that neutral bytecode to the Linux operating system representations. Similarly, here also be one converter is existed. What is the job of this converter here now? It will take a neutral bytecode as an input and it will convert that neutral bytecode to Unix representations. Similarly, what is the job of this particular converter here now? Right, sir. This converter will take neutral bytecode as an input and it will convert that neutral bytecode to MAC representations. Then what is the job of this converter here now? This converter job is it will take neutral bytecode as an input and it will provide Windows represented bytecode. It will convert that neutral bytecode to Windows representations. Yes, guys. All of you get my point or not? So here we require converter or not? Here we need a translator to translate our program from neutral bytecode to local, understand local operating system representations or not? Come on, we have to answer for my questions now. Is it required or not? Okay, converters are required. If these converters are available, then our work will be very simple. Then that conversion will be taken care by converter. Directly executable machine can execute that program, converted program. Easily we can get the outputs. Right or not? But here the question is, how Sun Microsystems has provided these converters explicitly? Definitely the converters must be expected from Sun Microsystems only. But how Sun Microsystems has provided these converters exactly? Right, if we come for this particular point here, everybody understand these points now. Sun Microsystems has provided both conversion mechanism and execution in a single machine. Sun Microsystems has provided both conversion and execution within a single machine. Sun Microsystems has provided both conversion as well as execution in a single machine. The name of that single mission to perform translating our program from dot class file to, that means bytecode, to the native code in the sense executable code. So that single mission which was provided by Sun Microsystem is called as JVM. This is also like what there, JVM, and this is also like what there, JVM, and this is also like what there, JVM. Guys, all of you now tell me, what is this JVM actually? Java Virtual Mission. What is this JVM actually? Java Virtual Mission. Am I right or not? Okay, that's the meaning of JVM. Understand clearly. What are two responsibilities of JVM in Java? What are the two responsibilities of JVM in Java? One is translating our bytecode from neutral nature to local operating system representations, and second one is what? Executing the translated code. Translation and execution, conversion and execution are the two responsibilities of the JVM. Now tell me, by seeing this total scenario, who is responsible to execute our Java program now? JVM is responsible to execute our Java program or not? JVM, while executing Java program, JVM had two responsibilities. One is translating that bytecode to the local operating system representations, and what next one, executing the translated code. Understand my point here? So this is possible in the case of Java. This is as it is exists in the case of Java, so that Java is what? A platform independent programming language. Because of this particular JVM, we can conclude Java is what? Java is a platform independent programming language. Java is what? No, a platform independent programming language because of this particular reason only. Right? Everybody understand my point here? Now I'm asking one question to all of you guys. Now try to answer for my question. How many times we compiled our program? How many times we compiled our program? Only one time or multiple times now? One time only we compiled our program. The same program we executed, how many times now? How many times we executed the same program? 4 times we executed the same program or not? Okay. One time we compiled the program and the program got executed 4 times here, 4 times. Now I'm asking one question here. As per this 4 times execution, how many JVMs we required? Is that only one JVM or 4 JVMs? Is that only one JVM or 4 JVMs? That point I required now. Come on, think and give the answer here now. 4 times we are trying to execute the program. Then how many JVMs we required here to execute our program 4 times? Is that 4 JVMs or only one JVM? 1 JVM or 4 JVMs? Come on, I need your answers. Multiple answers are required. 1 JVM or 4 JVMs? How many were saying 1 JVM? Please raise your hands. 1 JVM. Nice, nice, nice. How many were saying 4 JVMs? Okay, good. Anyway, answer for this question is 4 JVMs, not 1 JVM. 4 JVMs. I can give some conclusion also. How can I say this 4 JVMs? No, I'll give one point here. Listen carefully. The statement is Java programming language is a platform independent programming language because of JVMs only. Java programming language is a platform independent programming language because of JVMs only. But JVM is a platform dependent. Java programming language is a platform independent programming language only, but JVM is a platform dependent. Digest my point here. I think some of you are not believing this statement, but this is right. Whatever the Java program I have written, that program is independent of the operating system. But JVM, Java compiler, all Java tools are available or not? That all the tools are platform dependent. Observe carefully. For compilation of the Java program here, we need to install Java software on Windows operating system or not? We need a Java software or not? So here Windows related JVM is existed, Windows related compiler is existed. Now we have to execute our program in all 4 operating systems or not? It means that I need to install 4 times Java software or not? Here to execute Java program on Linux, no? On Linux, on the top of Linux, we require Java software or not? If you want to execute the program in Linux, no? Where we require to install Unix based Java software or not? If you want to execute our program on Mac, no? Mac related Java software is required or not? If you want to execute our program on Windows, no? Windows related JVM is required or not? Windows related Java software is required or not? Understand my point here? So here the point is what? Here Linux based Java software we are installing. Here Unix based Java software we are installing. Here Mac based Java software we are installing. And here Windows based Java software we installed. In the respective operating system, respective Java software if we install, then we can write our program one time, we can compile our program one time, and we can execute the same program in multiple operating systems clearly. Understand it? What exactly the point I'm telling you now. So here the point is what? Java programming language is a platform independent programming language because of JVMs only. But JVM is what? Platform dependent. Not only JVM, the total Java software, the complete Java software is what their platform dependent. Not only JVM, the total complete Java software is what they're platform dependent. Java software is nothing but a collection of Java compiler, Java JVM, Java profiler, and Java documentator, and all the tools combination is nothing but Java software. Once the JVM Java compiler is dependent on the operating system, in the sense, definitely that entire Java software is a platform dependent or not. But Java application is what? Platform independent. Whatever the program we prepared here, that program we can compile on Windows operating system, we can run on any of the operating systems with the help of JVM. But JVM is what? Platform dependent. Not only JVM, the total Java software is what they know? Platform dependent. Guys, all of you are getting conclusions about this particular point here? Understand it clearly? Okay, then in this example, how many JVMs are utilized there? 1 JVM or 4 JVMs? No, 4 JVMs, not 1 JVM. Observe carefully. First JVM has to translate the program from neutral bytecode to Linux representations, where it is doing some platform dependent activity. Second JVM is converting our neutral bytecode to Unix representations. There also it is doing some work related to platform dependent. A third JVM is trying to convert our neutral bytecode to Mac representations. Again, it is dependent on the operating system. Last one is Windows operating system. That means Windows based JVM. It is translating our program from neutral nature to the like what then Windows representations. There also we required a separate JVM. That's it. Now these are the conclusions here we have to understand clearly. All right guys, then still if you are not believing that, sir, any proof for this particular one, still if you are not believing that, I'll give some point also. No, try to observe carefully. Java software is a platform dependent, I'm telling you, but Java application is a platform independent. Let us see this one. I want to download Java softwares. For example, Java 8 download. I want to download Java 8 version, guys. Java 8 version I want to download. Observe carefully. If you want to download Java 8 version, anyway, any Java version. Now I want to go for like what there, Java 8 version I want to download. Observe carefully. I want to download Java 8 version. When I want to download Java 8 version, observe carefully. The downloadable links are provided as per the operating system or not. That these are the Linux-based, Linux-related operating systems based Java software here we are getting. Right, sir. Now Linux based. Next one is a Mac. For the sake of Mac, here we are getting support. Next one Solaris. Next one is what? Windows. Now tell me, if it is not platform dependent, how Java people are giving all these Java softwares downloadable link as per the operating systems? No. Understand my point here. Say for example, if we click on this particular link, we will download the Java software which contains a Windows represented JVM, Windows represented compiler. For example, if we click on this particular link, Solaris based Java software will be downloaded where Solaris represented compiler, Solaris represented JVM will be existed. Sir, understand my point here. So all the Java softwares are provided as per the operating systems or not. So by this also we can conclude Java software is platform dependent, but Java programming language is what now? Platform independent. Understand it, guys? What I'm telling them. So now observe carefully. What is the benefit of this platform independent? Is that platform independent is a beneficial concept or not? When compared with the platform independent is a benefit or not? Of course, while preparing my application, I can use Windows operating system, but my client operating system may be anything. It may be Unix or it may be Linux or it may be anything. Then easily I can deploy my application onto the other operating systems. Easily I can execute my application in other operating systems or not. Understand my point? For example, nowadays everybody is preparing server-side applications only. Nowadays everybody is preparing what applications? No, server-side applications only. Now tell me, for server maintenance, which operating system we are going to use? No, Linux operating system we are using. For server-side environment, we are using which operating system? Linux operating system. But at my workstation, as part of my laptop, which operating system is available with me? Windows operating system is available. So if I do work with Windows operating system, if I prepare my project in Windows operating system successfully, I can deploy my Windows represented project inside the Linux based server, where we can deploy it inside the server. There I can access that program from the client. But for my workstation Windows operating system, for my server side environment, Linux is available. So we prepared our program on Windows. Successfully we are deploying that program into the Linux. Successfully we are accessing that application from the respective client or not. Like this, if we talk now, n number of advantages here we are able to get with this platform independent programming language. But finally, altogether what I am telling there, Java programming language is a platform independent programming language. But JVM, Java compiler, all these things are platform dependent. Not only that, the total entire Java software is a platform dependent. That's it, not more than that. Okay, that's okay, guys. And time is not sufficient to continue in the further. Then tomorrow I'll explain the content here. Tomorrow we will see the total remaining content. Okay, thank you, guys. Thanks a lot. Tomorrow we'll see the remaining content here.